Riley Carter never imagined that $4.75 would change her life forever. It was Tuesday morning, 6 a.m., and the Grand Regency Hotel smelled of artificial lavender and old money. She pushed her cleaning cart down the 12th floor hallway when she heard tense voices coming from the panoramic cafe. She approached slowly, instinctively protective, and saw the scene. A man in an impeccable suit, dark-haired, with features that mixed elegance and exhaustion, emptying his pockets in front of the scowling manager. "I forgot my wallet in my room," he explained in hesitant English, with an accent Riley couldn't quite place. The manager crossed his arms. "Sir, that coffee costs $4.75. I can't release it without payment." Embarrassment hung in the air like thick fog. Riley knew that weight, the silent humiliation of being unable to prove your worth. Without thinking much, she pulled 3 bills and some crumpled coins from her uniform pocket, placed them on the counter, and said quietly, "It's paid." The manager frowned. The man looked up, surprised, and met her gaze, calm, without judgment, without expectation of gratitude. He murmured a barely audible thank you. Riley simply nodded and returned to her cart, pushing it as if nothing had happened. But something had happened. For her, it was just another automatic gesture, the kind she'd learned from her mother. Preserving another person's dignity costs little and means everything. For him, however, it was the first time in years someone had treated him like a human being, not a walking dollar sign. Khalil al-Sabah, heir to a billion-dollar holding company in the Middle East, spent the rest of the day thinking about that woman in the beige uniform with deep eyes. He couldn't forget her. 3 days later, Riley was folding sheets in the laundry room when Margaret, the hospitality manager, appeared with her face red with anger. "You paid a guest's bill without authorization?" Riley dried her hands on her apron. "I paid from my own pocket. I didn't use hotel money." "Doesn't matter, you broke protocol. Employees don't interfere in client transactions. This is an official warning." Riley bit her lip, not from fear, but from exhaustion. She knew this game well. There was always a reason to humiliate those who came from below. That night, Riley returned home with the warning stuck in her throat and $300 short from the month's budget. Lucas, her 16-year-old brother, was studying math at the small living room table. Marina, the 12-year-old youngest, was drawing in an old notebook. The 2 children she'd raised alone since 19, when their mother succumbed to cancer and their father disappeared into the shadows of irresponsibility. "Did you get the study guides, Ry?" Lucas asked without looking up. She lied and said yes, but knew she'd have to wait another month. The warning at the hotel meant fewer extra shifts. Fewer shifts meant less abundant food, less school supplies, less security. It meant returning to the permanent state of alert she knew so well. But Riley didn't complain. She just boiled water for the pasta, seasoned it with garlic and oil, and served her siblings with a smile that hid the knot in her stomach. 3 days later, the impossible happened. It was Saturday morning, and the neighborhood was waking up slowly when a deafening noise cut through the air. Helicopter, black, gleaming, descending onto the community center field like an alien spacecraft. Neighbors came to their windows. Children ran to see. Cell phones recorded everything. Riley was hanging laundry on the line when Marina shouted from the window, "Ry, there's a man in a suit coming this way." She ran down the stairs, her heart racing, understanding nothing. And then she saw him. Khalil al-Sabah was crossing the dirt road with 3 wrapped boxes in his hands and a bouquet of white flowers in his arm. Behind him, 2 security guards kept respectful distance. He stopped in front of the gate, took a deep breath, and said, in still uncertain English, "Riley Carter?" She froze. "That's me. I came to thank you for the coffee." The silence was broken by incredulous laughter from neighbors. Mrs. Patterson, the street's official gossip, was already at her gate, mentally noting every detail. Riley felt her face burn. "You didn't have to," she murmured, crossing her arms. "Yes, I did." Khalil extended the boxes. "You treated me like a person. Not like a client, not like a foreigner, like a person. That's worth more than coffee." Riley looked at the boxes, suspicious. Khalil carefully opened the first box, revealing a brand new tablet, still sealed. The second contained a voucher for online nursing courses, valid for 2 years. The third held a turquoise silk scarf, hand embroidered with a note. This was my mother's. She used to say that kindness recognizes kindness. Riley stepped back, as if the gifts burned. I can't accept this. Why not? Because it's not fair. I paid $475. This is worth thousands. It doesn't make sense. Khalil smiled for the first time, a tired but sincere smile. It does make sense. You don't know what it's like to live being treated like a walking vault. That day, you saw me, really saw me, and I want to reciprocate. Lucas appeared at the door, curious. Marina peeked through the window. Mrs. Patterson already had her phone out, recording everything. Riley felt the weight of stares, the pressure of future judgment, and did the only thing she knew how to do: set boundaries. If I accept, I need conditions. Khalil raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Which ones? First, this doesn't make me your debtor. Second, I don't want to appear on social media or in the news. Third, if I ever feel this is wrong, I'm leaving and you won't look for me. He extended his hand. Deal. Riley shook it, suspicious but firm. And then Khalil said something she never expected. I want you to come to Dubai. 1 week, just to talk. No contracts, no promises. I just want to meet someone real. The entire neighborhood seemed to freeze. Riley felt her legs weaken. You're crazy? Maybe, but I'm being honest. She laughed, incredulous. I don't know you. I don't know anything about you. And you want me to cross the world for what? To be humiliated when you realize I don't belong in your universe? Khalil didn't look away. I guarantee you won't be humiliated. And if at any moment you feel disrespected, I'll pay for the return ticket myself. Lucas nudged his sister. Ree, this is crazy, Marina whispered. But it's an interesting kind of crazy. Riley took a deep breath, feeling the weight of choice. Riley imposed more conditions, each stated with the firmness of someone who'd lost too much to risk for free. She wouldn't sleep under the same roof as Khalil. She'd have freedom to leave whenever she wanted, and especially no favors disguised as romance. If he expected anything beyond conversations, he should give up now. Khalil listened to everything in respectful silence and responded with simplicity. You define the rules. I just want your company. She accepted, not out of naivety, but from exhaustion. Tired of cleaning other people's dirt, of carrying the weight of 2 siblings on her back, of studying nursing in old workbooks while the world spun at high speed around her. Maybe that week would be a breath. Maybe it would be a mistake, but it would be hers. 2 days later, Riley entered the Grand Regency Hotel to get her last belongings from the laundry locker. Margaret intercepted her in the hallway, eyes shining with malice. I heard you got yourself a sponsor, she said, the air quotes audible in her venomous tone. Hope it's worth it, but know you're not setting foot in here again. Protocol breach with an international guest is extremely serious. Riley held back the urge to respond. She just got her things, signed the termination papers, and left through the back door, carrying her small suitcase and her dignity intact. At the airport, the contrast was brutal. Khalil was waiting for her at the private aviation terminal, where everything smelled of leather and air-conditioned silence. She wore the only pair of jeans without patches she owned, a simple white blouse, and worn sandals she used on Sundays. He, in a discreet suit, smiled when he saw her. Ready? Riley lifted her chin. Ready to come back any time. During the flight, she barely touched the food served on fine china. She just watched the sky through the window, wondering at what point her life had turned into a soap opera script. Khalil respected the silence, working on his laptop without pressuring. When they landed in Dubai, the city gleamed like a jewel under the scorching sun. Khalil led her to an armored car, and soon they were crossing wide avenues, bordered by skyscrapers that seemed to defy gravity. The palace was an affront to Riley's reality. Marble everywhere, dancing fountains in the internal gardens, silk curtains touching the floor like gala dresses. Every detail screamed wealth accumulated over generations, and she, with her small suitcase and suspicious gaze, felt like an intruder. A young woman, in a light veil and genuine smile, descended the main staircase. It was Amira, Khalil's sister, and her eyes recognized in Riley something familiar, the silent strength of someone who survives without losing their essence. Welcome, said Amira in almost perfect English. My brother won't stop talking about you. Riley blushed, embarrassed. He exaggerates. Maybe, but he rarely cares. Amira led Riley to the guest room, a space the size of the entire apartment where she lived with her siblings. King-size bed, bathroom with a jacuzzi tub, view of the Gulf. Everything too perfect. Everything too unreal. That night, there was a formal dinner. Khalil introduced her to part of the family and some members of the business council. Riley wore a simple dress Amira had lent her, sat at the long table, and felt the weight of stares. Some curious, others clearly hostile. An older man, with a graying beard and rigid posture, cleared his throat. "Khalil, I heard our guest works with cleaning?" Silence cut through the air like a blade. Riley raised her eyes, serene. "I do work, yes, with cleaning, cooking, and I study nursing in my spare time. And you, sir, what do you work with? Or do you just manage other people's work?" Amira choked on her wine, disguising a laugh. Khalil contained a smile. The man, Nasser, Khalil's uncle and chief advisor, turned red. What insolence! Riley didn't look away. It wasn't insolence. It was an answer. Dinner proceeded in poorly disguised tension. Riley ate little but maintained her composure. Later, alone in her room, she let tears roll down, not from sadness, but from exhaustion. She knew she didn't belong in that world, and she suspected that soon, someone would make sure to remind her of it. The following days were a delicate dance between discovery and discomfort. Khalil showed Riley the holding's social projects, financed hospitals, built schools, scholarship programs. She listened attentively, but also with suspicion. She knew well the difference between charity and real change. "How many of these scholarships go to poor women?" she asked during a meeting. The communications director hesitated. "About 20%. "And how many to immigrants and refugees?" Embarrassed silence. Riley sighed. "Then it's not inclusion, it's a showcase." Khalil didn't argue, he just took notes. And that night he called an extraordinary meeting to review the selection criteria. Amira watched everything with growing admiration. For the first time, someone was challenging her brother without fear of reprisals. But not everyone looked favorably on Riley's influence. Layla Haddad, the holding's communications chief and a woman of sharp ambitions, decided the American was a threat. She began discreetly. Poisonous comments in meetings, insinuations about international gold diggers, leaked photos of Riley receiving the gift boxes in the States. Social media caught fire. Cinderella housekeeper tries to win billionaire sheikh. American opportunist invades Dubai. Is she pregnant? The comments were cruel, mixing sexism, xenophobia, and classism into a toxic potion. Riley read everything in silence, her face impassive but her heart bleeding. Khalil tried to intervene, but she stopped him. "No, if you defend me publicly, it'll get worse. They'll say I'm a puppet." "Then what do we do?" Riley took a deep breath. "Nothing. I let the truth speak." But truth, alone, wasn't enough. Nasser called an emergency council meeting, demanding Khalil immediately break with the employee. There was an arranged engagement in progress. A Gulf heiress, billions in commercial agreements, political stability. Riley represented chaos. "You're going to throw everything away for a week's whim?" Nasser growled. Khalil clenched his fists. "It's not a whim. It's a choice. Then choose poorly and lose the company." The threat was real. The council had power to remove him from the presidency if he compromised the institutional image. And Layla, sensing the opening, decided to force the issue. She organized a press conference in defense of transparency, inviting local and international journalists. Riley only found out at the last minute. She was in the garden, reading an anatomy book Amira had given her, when security guards escorted her to the main auditorium. Khalil tried to stop them but was blocked by advisors. On stage, Layla smiled like a serpent. Behind her, a giant screen displayed enlarged photos. Riley receiving the boxes, entering the private jet, dining at the palace, and then the final blow, an edited audio, with Riley's voice supposedly saying, "If he's rich, why not take advantage?" The room exploded in murmurs. Cameras focused on Riley, who remained standing, pale but firm. Layla approached the microphone. I'm sorry to expose you like this, but the Al-Sabah family deserves protection from lies. Riley cut in, her voice low but clear. Layla blinked, surprised. Excuse me? Riley took a step forward. That audio is fake. I never said that, and these photos are out of context. We have proof. No, you have manipulation. Riley turned to the cameras, her heart thundering in her chest, but her voice steady. I paid $4.75 for a coffee for an embarrassed man in a hotel. I didn't know who he was. I didn't want anything in return. I did it because I learned that dignity has no price. And if that makes me an opportunist, then everyone who's ever helped someone without expecting anything is. The silence was dense. Layla tried to regain control, but Riley continued. I came from crowded buses my whole life. I raised 2 siblings alone. I studied with old workbooks. And even so, I never begged, never sold myself, never shamed anyone. So if you want to humiliate me, you'll have to do better than this. The first applause came from Amira in the 3rd row, then another, and another, until the entire room was applauding except Layla and Nasser. Khalil ran in, pushed past security, and climbed onto the stage, extending his hand to Riley. She accepted. Backstage, the war was just beginning. Nasser convened a closed meeting with the main shareholders, demanding Khalil's immediate removal. The accusation was clear. Emotional involvement compromising billion-dollar decisions. Numbers were presented, contracts at risk, partners backing out, institutional image shaken. Khalil listened to everything in silence. Then he stood up and said only, I resign. The room froze. If my presence threatens the company, I leave. But Riley stays, and you'll treat her with respect, or you'll publicly answer for moral harassment. Nasser smiled, triumphant. You're willing to lose billions for a person, Khalil cut in. Something you forgot to be. Riley learned of the resignation hours later through Amira. She ran to Khalil's office, furious and desperate. You're crazy? You threw everything away because of me. He looked up, tired but serene. I didn't throw anything away. I recovered something. What? Control of my life. Riley sat down, her legs weak. I can't accept this. I can't carry this weight. Khalil approached, kneeling before her. You didn't ask for anything. I chose, and I'd choose again. Tears rolled down Riley's face, from anger, from powerlessness, from something she couldn't name. I'm leaving. Today. I'll take this weight off you. No. Khalil. No. He held her hands, firm but gentle. If you want to leave because you don't want to stay, I accept. But if you're leaving out of guilt, out of fear of hurting me, then you're running. And you're not a runner. Riley sobbed. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to weaken in someone's arms. Khalil embraced her, unhurried, without expectations. That night, she wrote a note. You saw me as a person. Keep that. She left it on the bed, grabbed her small suitcase, and left in the early morning before anyone woke. When Khalil found the note at dawn, he didn't cry. He just closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Back in Chicago, Riley was received with a mix of morbid curiosity and cruelty, disguised as concern. American headlines were relentless. Housekeeper SHEIKH returns empty-handed. Fairy tale becomes nightmare for humiliated American. Riley Carter from luxury to nothing in 1 week. Mrs. Patterson spread word that she had sold herself and returned used. Margaret, the former boss, gave interviews insinuating Riley had always been opportunistic and problematic. Social media turned her story into a meme. Her photo with the caption, "When you think you're Cinderella, but you're just Cinderella at 10. Riley endured everything in silence. She returned to cleaning houses, to night studies, to the routine of taking 2 buses before sunrise. Lucas and Marina received her with tight hugs, no questions. They knew their sister would return. She always returned. But something had changed in her. It wasn't fragility. It was clarity. For the first time, Riley understood that kindness wasn't weakness, and that refusing crumbs was as dignified as accepting them when they came with respect. 3 weeks later, on a morning of light rain, a simple car, a black sedan, no armor, no ostentation, parked in front of the housing complex. Neighbors crowded at windows. Riley was washing dishes when Marina shouted from the living room, "Ree, it's him!" She dried her hands on a dish towel, took a deep breath, and went down. Khalil was leaning against the car. No tie, no security, no pose. Just a tired man, wet from rain, holding a manila envelope in his hands. He smiled when he saw her, but didn't approach. He waited for her to decide. Riley crossed the gate slowly, arms crossed. "You don't give up easy, do you?" "Not when it matters." "What are you doing here?" "I came to say I really resigned. Signed the papers. Nasser took over the presidency, and I left with enough shares to live well, but without weight. And I came to propose something." Riley raised an eyebrow. "Marriage?" He laughed. "No. Partnership." Khalil opened the envelope, revealing a detailed project, the Amira and Riley Foundation, a full scholarship program for nursing, medicine, and health fields, aimed exclusively at women from underserved neighborhoods in the U.S. and immigrants in the Emirates. Everything funded by him, but managed by an independent board. And Riley would be the American coordinator, if she accepted. No charity, Khalil explained. With work, fair salary, autonomy, partnership. You choose the scholarship recipients, define criteria, supervise. I just finance. Riley read the document, tears blurring her vision. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you taught me that power without purpose is just ego. And because I want to build something that makes sense. With you." She looked up. "And if I say I don't want anything more than friendship, then we'll be friends who change the world." Riley smiled, a genuine smile, for the first time in weeks. "I accept. But with one condition, no social program without me. If it's just a nice name on paper, I'm out." "Deal." The next day, international media reported the foundation's creation. Layla tried to discredit the project, but was exposed by investigative journalists who revealed her previous manipulations, including the edited audio. She was removed and prosecuted. Nasser tried to block funding, but Amira, now on the council, orchestrated a turnaround. She removed her uncle for ethical violations and assumed the vice presidency. "Power without ethics doesn't last," she declared in an interview. 6 months later, the first class of scholars was announced. 50 women, between Americans from underserved neighborhoods and immigrants in the Emirates. The ceremony took place on a community center lawn with children running, student mothers as guests, an improvised choir. No marble, no pomp, just people, music, and hope. Khalil and Riley took the stage together, not as a couple, but as partners. He spoke about responsibility, she about resistance. And when they announced that Lucas had been accepted into the radiology technician program and Marina had won a medical translation internship, the audience erupted in applause. 2 years later, they got married. Not in a palace, but on the same lawn. No fireworks, but with an application line doubled around the block. The ring was discreet. The vows direct. No masks, no shortcuts, with work. Riley, now in a lab coat and badge, coordinated the first training center on the south side. Khalil divided his routine between Dubai and Chicago, visiting construction sites, talking with scholars, learning to be human. And on the day of the auditorium's inauguration, a plaque was affixed at the entrance. "Who pays for coffee can light a beacon." Riley read it, smiled, and thought of her mother, who had taught her that kindness, when born from integrity, doesn't buy anyone. But it changes the course of the wind. The foundation expanded faster than either of them anticipated. Within 18 months, there were satellite centers in Detroit, Houston, and Phoenix. The model was simple but revolutionary. Identify women with potential, remove every possible barrier, tuition, books, childcare, transportation, even stipends for living expenses, and trust them to succeed. Riley traveled constantly, visiting centers, interviewing candidates, fighting bureaucracy. Khalil handled the finances and political negotiations, using his business connections to open doors Riley's background couldn't. They made an unlikely but effective team, her ground-level understanding paired with his strategic resources. But success brought scrutiny. Conservative media outlets questioned whether handouts were creating dependency. Progressive critics wondered if a billionaire's money could ever create real change, or just assuage guilt. Riley addressed both in a viral interview. "We're not giving handouts, we're removing obstacles. These women work harder than anyone I know. They just need a fair shot. And if that makes some people uncomfortable, maybe they should ask themselves why." The interview was clipped, shared, debated. Some called her articulate and brave. Others called her ungrateful and divisive. Riley learned to ignore both extremes and focus on the work. Meanwhile, her relationship with Khalil deepened in quiet ways. They didn't live together. Riley maintained her apartment with Lucas and Marina, while Khalil kept a modest condo downtown. But they shared mornings over coffee, late-night phone calls about foundation challenges, and an understanding that what they'd built together mattered more than traditional definitions of romance. Amira visited from Dubai every few months, delighting in watching her brother become someone she barely recognized, humbler, more present, genuinely happy. During one visit, she pulled Riley aside. "You know what you did, don't you?" Riley looked confused. "Built a foundation?" Amira shook her head. "You reminded him he's human. Our father raised him to be a machine. Calculate, acquire, dominate. You showed him another way." Riley felt uncomfortable with the credit. "He chose to change. I just existed nearby. That's more than anyone else offered him." The wedding, when it finally happened, was Riley's design entirely. No formal invitations, just word of mouth in the communities they served. No registry, just donations to the foundation. No bridal party, just Lucas walking Riley down the makeshift aisle while Marina sang. Khalil wore a simple suit. Riley wore a second-hand dress she'd altered herself. The vows were written on notebook paper, unpolished, but true. Riley went first. "I promise to see you even when you forget to see yourself, to challenge you when you're wrong and celebrate you when you're right, to build something that outlasts both of us." Khalil's voice cracked slightly. "I promise to never take you for granted, to respect your boundaries, even when I don't understand them, to be worthy of the kindness you showed a stranger." There was no reception, just food trucks and folding tables, scholarship recipients sharing stories with donors, children playing on the lawn where a helicopter had once landed. Mrs. Patterson attended, humbled and apologetic. As sunset painted the sky, Riley found a quiet moment watching the crowd. Khalil joined her, sliding his hand into hers. "Any regrets?" he asked. She smiled. "Only that I can't tell my younger self that 475 was the best investment she'd ever make." "We got a good return," he said. "This is bigger than both of us now." And it was. The foundation had become its own entity, with momentum, champions, and a future beyond their control. They'd planted something that was now growing beyond their reach. 5 years after that first cup of coffee, Riley received her nursing degree. She walked across the stage in her own foundation's graduation ceremony, diploma in hand, proof that the barriers she'd fought to remove could be overcome. Khalil was in the front row, applauding loudly. Lucas, now a radiology technician, whistled. Marina video called from Barcelona, where she studied medical translation. In her graduation speech, Riley didn't mention Dubai or helicopters. She talked about her mother, who'd cleaned houses with dignity, about the women who'd raised her, about the power of seeing people in their full humanity. "A cup of coffee costs $4.75, she concluded, "but seeing someone, treating them with dignity when they're at their lowest, that's priceless. That's what changes everything." The audience rose in standing ovation. Riley stepped down, removed her cap, and walked straight to Khalil. She kissed him simply and whispered, "Thank you for seeing me." He whispered back, "Thank you for teaching me how." Years later, journalists would ask Riley about her Cinderella story. She'd correct them firmly. "It's not a fairy tale. Fairy tales are about magic. This is about work, boundaries, and refusing to accept less than you deserve." But late at night, with medical textbooks piled on the table and Khalil asleep on the couch after another long foundation day, Riley would sometimes let herself believe in a little magic. Not the kind requiring glass slippers. The kind that happened when two people saw each other clearly, without pretense, and decided to build something together. The kind that started with $4.75 and changed hundreds of lives. The kind that proved kindness, rooted in integrity and paired with action, wasn't weakness. It was revolution.